Very, very welcome to the information session on our leadership development program for managers. My name is Kevin Henderson, and I will be navigating with you for the rest of the next hour or so. And I'm aptly assisted by Chanel Bowers, who will drive the slide deck for me in the background. I am quite excited about this program. Leadership is one of those things that we all always talk about, and it's quite interesting. Leadership is very often really required when things go wrong. In fact, I often see that sometimes when we think of how things are going well in our organization, actually no one needs the leadership because we all know what we are to do. And it's with that background that we are looking at the information we want to share for this afternoon. So thank you so much for joining us. And let me do an official welcome on behalf of our Senior Director of the Business School, Professor Chris van der Wuffen, his EXCO members who are present here today, my channel director, Ms. Claire Kelly, and all the other colleagues present on behalf of us at SBS Ed. Hearty welcome to you joining us to get more information on the program. Just to give us an indication of where we're heading, as that is actually part of what leadership is about. It's about, can we get some direction? What we will cover this afternoon is that we will talk about the context of the program, and then we will give you an overview of the program, and at the end, maybe share some suggestions or recommendations with regard to some of the possible solutions for organizations as well. And as usual, we would like for you to have some time to ask questions at the end of the session. But in the meantime, as we are progressing through the afternoon, you are more than welcome to post some comments or questions that you may have into the chat, and my colleagues will pick them up. As mentioned and promised, we will come back to some of those questions. Please keep your eye just on the chat, as some of the answers might actually come from the colleagues while we are busy through the program as well. Thank you, Chanel. As I often like to do is to maybe just help our attendees to see like where we fit into the ecosystem of Stellenbosch University. And we're very proud to be a part of the university, but as we know, within the management and economic sciences faculty, we have the business school as a satellite campus, and at the business school, we have the two divisions, which are responsible, the one division for degree programs, postgraduate degree programs like MBAs, MPhils, PhDs, but also postgraduate diplomas in leadership development as well. However, we also have the division responsible for leadership and management short courses for working professionals. And we are commonly known as SBS Ed, but the true word and the full term referring to us is Stellenbosch Business School Executive Development. And so from that perspective, that is who you are listening to, talking to this afternoon. And there's a particular value in doing a program with us as executive development. And Chanel will move us to the next slide. And part of that value is the fact that we are indeed accredited or quality assured by the business school itself, which means that our colleagues at the business school, the ones who does all the research in terms of, the relevance of what we do, they quality assure our programs. And at the same time, we are accredited by the Higher Education Quality Council in South Africa. Some of our programs are actually, especially those region-specific courses, are registered with the Botswana Qualifications Authority, as well as the Mauritius Qualifications Authority as well. But I think the following aspect that I want to highlight for us is the fact that we are the proud holders of the Triple Crown accreditation, which is a prestigious award held by about only 1% of business schools worldwide. And I want to sort of echo that worldwide. It's indeed no mean feat. And so we're very proud as this is awarded conjointly by the Association of MBAs for AMBER, the European Foundation for Management Development Quality Systems, or EQUIS, and the American Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business International, or commonly known as the AACSB. So as Chanel take us to the next slide. And so let's talk about why we are here this afternoon. This program that we are launching, which is the Leadership Development Program for Managers, and maybe to provide some context as to why this program. Let's talk about that as well. Thank you, Chanel. I would like to quickly focus your attention on the quote by Warren Bennis that says, a business short on capital can borrow money, and one in a poor location can move. But a business short on leadership has little chance of survival. It's one of my favorite quotes, and I often translate this in the following manner, which is sometimes in organizations, we can all see that we need some capital. But what happens for most people is that they talk in the passages and they complain about the fact that we lack the necessary funds. Sometimes we can see maybe this place where our business is situated is not ideal, and we can moan about that. But then it says a business short on leadership has little chance of survival. And for me, what Warren Bennis is trying to say there is the fact that unless someone makes a decision to go to the bank, or unless someone makes a decision for us to move, we will stay in the situation. And usually those decisions are made by leaders, sometimes with the input of other colleagues, but it's leaders who have the responsibility to make those decisions as well. And I think it's important then for us to understand how that leads into this shifting landscape that leaders would have to navigate. And so I maybe want to highlight the following: the fact that rapid technological change, global instability, the volatility in the market, what is that doing to our leaders? It requires of them to think strategically, navigate the ambiguity, and adapt with confidence. In fact, managers must now move beyond operational oversight so that they can make agile, future-focused decisions. And so it links back to what Warren Bennis says, because it's leadership that needs to make those kind of decisions. And so we also are aware that today's workforce, they seek purpose, trust, and authenticity. And so very often managers need some EQ and self-awareness and the ability to inspire and empower others to build resilient, high-performing teams. Therefore, leadership is no longer about control. It's actually about that connection. I'm actually reminded of what a guy by the name of John Maxwell would say. He says, leadership, therefore, is very seldom official. And so when we look at that and we talk about this leadership development, it's not always about the position, but it's about that ability of our colleagues around us and how we develop leadership within them so that we can sort of connect with one another as well. And then lastly, in this competitive landscape that I'm sure all of your managers and leaders need to navigate, technical skill alone is not enough. It is the work of one of the theorists and people who have developed a model, Drucker, Sharon, and Noel, that says that technical skill will get you into the job. But as you want to progress, it will be those of us who can align vision, those of us with the action, those of us who can make ethical decisions and influence across silos and cultivate a culture of innovation and accountability that will be able to survive this competitive landscape as well. And so, ladies and gentlemen, having sort of taken cognizance of the shifting landscape, this has actually brought us to the point where we say, so how about us looking at a program that can help managers to navigate that? So the purpose of the program then is clearly focused on being future fit whilst we want to transform managers into impactful leaders by strengthening their leadership capabilities, mindsets, and their approaches. In actual fact, what we're saying is that sometimes there's a great focus on the ability to manage, but we often forget that leadership and management are basically two sides of the same coin. Very often we are very adept at developing the management component, but it's the leadership aspect that often needs a little bit more of impetus through development as well. So the purpose then continues to say that we will therefore recognize that leadership actually begins with self-mastery. It will follow a structured journey from leading self to navigating complex team dynamics in this world that we are commonly describing it as a VUCA world, which is volatile and uncertain, ambiguous, and complex as well. And so the purpose of the program further then aims to, through the leadership framework and ethical decision making, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking, move beyond functional and operational management to becoming more inspiring and with greater influence in and with our team as, as well. Now that we understand the context of this program and the world that we work in, the purpose of the program, let's talk about how will this program roll out in terms of the overview of the program. Thanks, Chanel. So the program is aligned to an NCAF level 6. And so, ladies and gentlemen, in our context, that simply means that in terms of the complexity that we align it to an NCAF level. But the program will then run over 3 months or register for 3 months. And we have a study block that will run for 5 days, and it will be remotely offered. Within those 5 days, we have 5 modules. And then because we often want our people to leave with a certificate of competence, we also need to have some assessments being done or assignments being done as well. So there will be a summative assignment in which the participant will develop an individual leadership development plan. But at the same time, we will have 3 formative assessments, which will just be individual in-class quizzes, just to sort of consolidate the learning or the knowledge base that has been developed in the classroom setup as well. And so having said that, that is how it will run in terms of the assignment aspect. Let's look at who is suitable to attend this program. Program is suitable to middle or senior managers who are technically proficient, but require stronger leadership skills. And the purpose would then be sort of the competencies and effectiveness for leadership could be enhanced. We have a couple of recommendations in terms of admission. So we would require someone with an NCAF level 5 qualification or equivalent to that. You don't need any leadership or management experience, but for the purpose of dealing with the pace of the class time and the facilitation, we think it would be imperative that you at least have an NCAF level 4 competency with the English language. And in South Africa, that would mean at least a matric kind of level of the usage of the English language as well. Great. So what are the learning outcomes? What are we hoping to achieve at the end? So the focus is around developing emotional intelligence principles so that you can build and manage high-performing teams, but then also demonstrate a comprehensive understanding of leadership theories, models, and frameworks, and so that could be applied in diverse organizational contexts. To that extent, the program will then focus on using case studies as well, and then explain the role of ethical decision-making in effective leadership and organizational governance. You will remember the quote by Warren Bennis earlier on, refer to those decisions that we need to make. And so it's not the purpose of a leader to make ethical decisions, but it's the purpose of a leader to make decisions to if or for effectiveness in your business. But can you make those decisions for effectiveness by being ethical in how you do? And then we want to focus on critically analyzing leadership case studies to identify challenges, opportunities, and then other strategies for improvement. Then lastly, to develop a personal leadership development plan, integrating feedback, self-assessment, and the organizational need that you are involved in as well. And so, ladies and gentlemen, like I've mentioned earlier on, there will be 5 modules. And typically, we will start out, like I've mentioned earlier on, with the self-leadership component, the evaluation of your strengths, areas of development, and clarifying those values and beliefs that we sometimes severely hold, but also during self-leadership to apply self-reflection techniques so that you can enhance your self-awareness in this world that we are currently living in and working in. I don't have to emphasize the need for us to be resilient and adaptable so that we can deal with these challenging situations. I was talking to our team earlier on, and I was just sort of reflecting on one of our young mind students who had a session with me yesterday, and we were focusing on one of her strengths are that she's a very adaptable person, because with our young minds, we do this program called the Strength Finder. And one of our strengths is the adaptability and the difficulty um, for young people, especially, to be able to kind of see the future and how will I navigate. But it's important that we, from a very early age, for them, develop that resilience and adaptability. And so, therefore, we're highlighting it here as well, because one thing that we are certain of is that you will have to change. And then lastly, with regard to self-leadership, it's how to apply those emotional intelligence principles within your personal and professional context as well. There's another reason why we focus so strongly on the self-leadership as well. I often say that the person who you are at home and the person that you are at work need to be the same person. And I know that there's a school of thought that says, no, those are two different people. I have in the past taken my daughter with me to work, and she has often said to me, Dad, I don't understand your work. You tell the same boring jokes at home that at work that you tell at home. But that has always been such a beautiful testimony to me, because what it said to me was that my children see me at work in the same way that they see me at home. And I think that is the reason why self-leadership is so important. And then after that, we shift gears into a module that reflects on leadership within a global context. And so here we're going to look at explaining the leadership theories and the relevance in the global context of today, to demonstrate and understand the impact of globalization on leadership and business operations, but then also to evaluate the different leadership styles and their effectiveness in cultural and organizational context. And then lastly, leadership in a global context will then also focus on developing strategies for especially leading within a virtual world and with multicultural teams. I think we all have become aware that within the last couple of years, leading your teams within a virtual world has become more and more important. Thank you, Chanel. The third module that we will be focusing on is around effective, or excuse me, ethical leadership. And what we would hope to achieve in that module is around defining what ethical leadership is, and explaining the key ethical theories and the application in leadership, as well as applying ethical reasoning models to real-world leadership dilemmas, and so therefore demonstrating self-awareness in ethical leadership practices. I often think of the two terms when I think of ethical leadership. as the terms of in a competitive world that we are working with, the terms of um, um, sort of gamesmanship as a, as opposed to sportsmanship. And we know that sportsmanship is that idea that we will compete within basic principles and with certain values, and but we will stay within the rules. And gamesmanship is often the idea that we will compete and we will do whatever it takes to get ahead for as long as we get away with it. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that you will agree with me that very often the reason why some companies fail, the reason why some of our leaders get themselves into hot water is because they sometimes apply the gamesmanship idea of ethics instead of applying the sportsmanship idea of ethics. And as we then pivot from ethical leadership, we move into effective stakeholder communication. All of us know that as a leader, that you are only going to be effective if you have the ability to influence the relevant stakeholders in your environment as well. And so we want to dedicate the module to that, where we're hoping that the participants will be able to deliver confident and persuasive business presentations, engaging in effective business negotiations and meetings, but also at the same time monitor and evaluate stakeholder engagement and navigate cross-cultural communication challenges in global business environment. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the program will sort of end with focus on teams now. So taking all of what we've covered into the previous four modules to bring that together into how do you lead high-performing teams now. I often quote an old sort of author, Stephen Covey, who says, all of us want public victory, which is the notion of having been or being able to lead teams and leading organizations. But he often says, or he used to say, but public victory in the absence of private victory is not sustainable. And so therefore you've seen that we focus on the private victory, we focus on the self-leadership and developing the leadership competencies. And now we're bringing all of it together into say, so how do you utilize all of this now to lead high-performing teams? And so the focus is then going to be on using different motivational techniques to improve team performance, explaining team roles and responsibilities, and then facilitating team cohesion, as well as providing how to provide constructive feedback and performance coaching as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the 5 modules that will make up the program. And like I said, at the end of the program, there's the expectation that the participant will now, based on what we've input, will develop their own leadership development plan. And during the program, there are different quizzes they will complete just in terms of consolidating the knowledge as, as well. Having said that, everyone wants to know, okay, so what will be the benefit for me if I do this program? And so we've highlighted 4, and there might be some more, but for us, one of the benefits will be that you will strengthen leadership capabilities and mindset and approaches. But also, at the end of the program, the participant will leave with a highly personalized leadership development plan. And then also, they will gain access to and support from a dedicated learning process facilitator who will serve as a coach throughout the program. And lastly, they will also benefit from the delivery offered from our world-class faculty and subject matter experts as well. I'm beginning to wrap up our presentation before we head into some Q&A, but let's just quickly talk about what are some of the solutions for organizations as well. We like to refer to this as in-house solutions, or also sometimes looking at what we call close cohort, which means that this program, even though it is now designed and being put into the open market. In your organization, we can come and do an in-house solution of this program, which is ready-made intervention for you, with the added advantage that we can personalize some of the outcomes for your specific organization. So we will then deep dive into your opportunities and challenges facing your own organization and within your industry context, so that we can personalize the delivery in terms of case studies specifically to your organization. We therefore can also personalize the program by adding additional coaching sessions to reinforce learning and enhancing the experience. But also, the open program is 5 days flat, but we can then offer flexible modes of delivery, which could be, for example, blended approaches where we can say we can do this for your organization in person, or we can even offer it as a blended opportunity with some of the modules being facilitated in person and some of it being facilitated remote. To, to give you more information around that, we would like to point your attention to the email address at the bottom there. Claire Kelly is in the room. If you can't see it, just scroll down your screens and you'll see it's the lady in the red jacket and the red lipstick. And she's the person whom you can contact in order to sort of get more information around our in-house solutions for close cohorts for your organization as well. Thanks, Chanel. As I'm closing, what would be the return on investment for L&D's learning and development specialists? I think, first of all, it's something that will help in strengthening leadership thinking and decision making within your organization, but also it will strengthen the leadership pipeline and therefore enhance agility within the organization. But I think also at the end of the day, it will lead to improved effectiveness of leaders across your organization as well. So the journey, in summary, it's a 3-month journey designed to help technically strong managers to step into purposeful, authentic leadership by they will uncover the leader within, which is through self-mastery, reflection, and the renewed understanding of their personal values and strengths. They will also harness emotional intelligence so that they can lead with empathy, courage, and resilience in moments that matter most. As I always say, nobody needs leadership when things are going well. We actually need it when things are critical, when we have moments that matter most. And then they will also be able to transform the way they connect with others through building trust, loyalty, and high-performing teams grounded in a sense of purpose. In addition to that, stepping into the bigger picture with the strategic thinking and ethical clarity needed to influence change across the organization. And lastly, redefining their leadership legacy, not just through results, but also through by the lives and the careers of the people they help to shape. Our first intake happens on the 20th of August. And the study block, and so that will be the orientation. And the study block will run from the 25th to the 29th of August this year. And it ends at the end of November 2025. Applications for this program is still open, and the closing date is on the 30th of July. And so we will provide you with some links in the chat for applications, and there will be a slide coming up giving you the contact detail of people whom you can contact to get further information around the program as well. So Chanel, thank you. We can move to the next slide, which is just to say, please, we are willing to listen to any of your questions, your comments, And hopefully we will be able to answer all of that for you as well. So at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours. Any questions? I'm just trying to navigate here on my side to see if I can see any questions I need to respond to. Okay, so I see there was a question by Babalwa asking about if you say technically or if it's Sinead. Yeah, Sinead. When you say technically minded managers, can you please be a bit more specific? And so what we mean by that is that sometimes people become managers because they are technically sound. In other words, you're a technical engineer. I think one of the best examples to me, I often think of, and some of you may not even know, I often think of a guy who used to be the CEO of ESCOM, and he was an engineer. So he was and everyone was talking about how technically sound he is. In other words, what I mean by that thing is that sort of field in which you're qualified. And sometimes that can be you're a great accountant. Sometimes that can be you're a brilliant engineer, etc. So that's what I mean by technically minded managers. So managers who have climbed the ladder on the basis of their technical expertise rather than their leadership ability. And so I think that's important to see as what I mean by technically minded. So Nate, yes, as a shipping manager, yes, of course, I can imagine that you have a qualification in that field. And if you want to improve your ability to influence your team, because remember, as a manager, you always have the authority to tell people what to do. But there's a better way of doing things, which is when you can influence them, and definitely this will be able to improve or help you and assist you in developing that possibility to be more effective at influencing people.
Kevin, you have one from Sindisiwe that could you help unpacking the differences of this program versus the 6 month senior management development program?
Okay, thank you for that question. The management development program is a comprehensive program which focuses with some aspects of leadership, but the focus is still, as a business manager, what are the technical things that you need to focus on? So in that program, I think there's 2 days that they spend on leadership, but the focus is only about leadership in terms of who are you, and then focusing on how do you lead within your team. But that entire program covers aspects of commercializing innovation. It covers aspects of the economy. So economics is one of the modules. We also look at the financial management, marketing, etc. Where this program is a 5-day program only focusing on leadership. So that program, the MDP, focuses on both management and leadership. With this program, the focus is purely on the management, on the leadership aspect of being a manager. I hope that clarifies for you. I'm just reading. Apologies for my silence. I'm trying to read it.
It's,
We just put it on the
yes,
screen.
Kevin, I'll help you there. So, do you need a recommendation letter from your workplace when applying? I could answer that one. No, not at all. You obviously could apply through your organization or your company or as individuals. We have many of them as well. Is this course not for individuals who aspire to elevate to managerial positions? Kevin, you want to take that one?
Say that again. Is this course?
Is course not for individuals who aspire to elevate to managerial position?
It will definitely help you if you aspire to become a manager. But I must admit that that aspect of management or of being a manager, this course will be the focus on leadership. And 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 that is a little bit different from just focusing on being a manager. remember, when you're a manager, you have to bring out two aspects, which is you need to be proficient at management, and that's the day-to-day planning and organizing and all of those kind of things. But you also need to be proficient at leadership. And so this course is focusing on how do we develop that aspect of being a manager, the leadership aspect of being a manager. Okay. Ernie, I've been reading your comment. So Ernie is asking, he wants to know, um, the gap often exists not in understanding leadership concepts, but in applying them under pressure, navigating resistance to change, and developing accountability systems that should sustain leadership growth after formal training ends. Now, um, you the reason why we have the LPF is actually to help with a bit of coaching in that context. But Ernie, you are absolutely right. Like many other development programs, if they are not the sort of follow-up work from a coaching perspective that happens, it often can lead to people attending a course and from there, things stay on the bookshelf because there's a file and all of those kind of things. But we are hoping through this leadership development program that the person will also take some personal leadership responsibility for embarking on a coaching journey. But when we do it as a close cohort, for example, we can actually work that aspect in so that the program don't just focus on the content and facilitation in the classroom, but that there will be enough opportunity um, for that kind of application of learning. So if you will allow me and indulge me quickly, we are quite strong on the idea of learning versus acquisition of knowledge. So when we talk about what I've said as the outcomes, for us, it's not about the faculty comes in and they're going to dump information because that information, there's enough books for people to go and read. But what we do in all of those sessions, it will be facilitated conversations with case studies so that application can take place. Admittedly, when you apply it in the classroom situation, that's a practice. But how about going after the study school and going beyond your leadership? And I often say that people have acquired knowledge when they pass the assignment, apology, when they pass the assignment, but they haven't learned unless that knowledge has led to a change in their behavior. And it's often when we have that accountability of someone who can hold them accountable for that. And so, yes, it is possible for us in the close cohort to go beyond that. But in essence, that happened on a daily basis in class. Hence, we're having the learning process facilitated there as well. Kerry?
Thanks, Kevin. I also just wanted to step in. Hi, Ernie. It's Kerry here. I think there's also, we need to be aware that within a closed cohort, we obviously have limitations. But to Kevin's point, there is also a lot of opportunity for actual, we can facilitate coaching for the individual delegates on the program outside of the open program. Absolutely. So that definitely lends itself to an element of customization, which can absolutely be accommodated in this model. So, we can really do whatever an organization would like for an in-house program. Obviously, this is the open program. So there are limitations in terms of the learning design. But, we 100% agree with you. But we also want to make it clear that there are many options outside of this open program. And you can chat to Claire about that. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Kerry. And Ernest, thanks. I saw your comment, being a proud alumnus of the business school. Thanks. Asifa, your question around high leadership potential but are not yet in management. Absolutely. So this is not only for managers, but obviously we have seen that many managers fail not because of their technical skill, but because of their leadership ability. So that's why it is written like that. But I am I am a person who believes that leadership is not necessarily a role, but it's a way of being. So you don't have to be in a position of leadership to actually develop and improve your leadership. So absolutely, yes, it will definitely benefit a person who wants to improve their leadership, because people don't only lead at work, they also lead in other places. But sometimes, even if the person is in a team, but doesn't have the position of leadership, it's amazing to see how that influences the entire team just because of the presence of a person like that. So yeah, absolutely. Um, so I think Toriano, I think there has been someone did post the cost of the program earlier on, but I'll just quickly say it to you, it's 29,900, including VAT. And we don't have payment plans, but we do have an opportunity where you can connect with us regarding, I think it's Capitec. So the question is a little bit out of my depth. So
That's
maybe I'll
correct.
ask Claire to respond to that.
That is correct. Yes, we do have a relationship or a partnership with Capitec, and it is in the chat as well. If I could maybe ask you now, just to drop it again in the chat with the link.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Okay. I'm just going to scroll back up to see if I've maybe missed anything and if my colleagues can maybe help me. Ladies and gentlemen, if I haven't responded to your question, you can also just sort of raise your virtual hand. I will be able to pick it up on my side, and then you can just pose your question as well. Just want to go back.
If I could just
Yeah,
answer that last question, Kev, are you open
yeah,
to enrolling for 10 to 15 delegates? Absolutely.
great. Then Fanele, also, is there a final paper or project? That leadership development plan is the final submission that you have to do. Okay, then I'm going back up. Okay, so Fanele, you also asking the question around what programs can you build onto this one once you're done at the end of the 3 months. At the moment, there's not anything specific that you can build on. But the advantage would be that, for example, if you are not in a management position and you've done this program, you could then come onto our management development program as well, but it won't count as a credit at this stage. But thank you for that question. I think we can certainly look at that and see what are the possibilities in that regard. Okay, Bonolo, yeah, Claire has responded to your question, so I'm sure that that's okay. Possibly, and then
Have another one. What certificates do you get?
the certificate is a certificate of competence, which is issued by Stellenbosch University. All our programs, when you complete them successfully, you get a certificate from Stellenbosch University, and this one is then, like I said, aligned to NQF level 6 as well. I'm just scrolling up. I've seen that one. I've seen. Good. I don't see anyone raising a hand or anything like that. And it looks like we've answered most of the questions.
Hi, Kevin.
Yes, Lefedi.
Sorry, a quick one from me. I think I've been having a bit of troubles listening in, probably because of our network bandwidth, and you may have covered this. I just wanted to know, is there like a practical component to this? How do they then apply what they've learned into the workplace?
Okay. So the nature of the classes, so they will do a future fit assessment up front. And the nature of the classes will be that they will have opportunity in class to apply. Remember, leadership is one of those things where the focus is on reflection mostly. What our learning process facilitator will do is part of that journey, is that reflection on learning, which is to going back to work. Where will you apply that? And helping them to look at opportunities where this could be applied. The ultimate plan for them is for them to leave with a leadership development plan, which they will develop through that entire week. But that is the space mostly where they where they can apply. I am I'm I'm trained as a clinical psychologist, and I always remember when I was trained, one of the things that I've often said to people when we trained, the place where I practiced, where I applied was at home. And I often say with leadership, it's like, with wrestling, they say, please do not try this at home. With leadership development, I say, please try it at home. Because the value is that the people at home at least love you. And if they fire you, you've had problems way before that. But that would be my answer to that as well.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Yes. Is it Panele?
Yes. So I wanted to find out the certificate of I have 2 or 3 questions, so I'll just ask them all. Firstly, the certificate of competence that you are awarded at the end, is it accredited? Like, what does that look like in terms of taking it forward to other institutions for other maybe executive programs or things like that later on? That's the first one. And the second question is, could you speak more about who the facilitators or the teachers of the program are? Is the program live, or is it a blended where you can also study at your own pace, but you also have some live session, or is it fully you work at your own on your own without working with in a live classroom or something like that? And then the last one, could you speak about the application requirements? I actually haven't opened the application form yet, so I don't know what the form is asking. I know you already said there's no recommendation letter requirements, but when you are submitting your application, what kind of information do you want us to submit? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for, I think maybe let's start with the last one, Claire. You want to just quickly talk about the application?
Regarding the application, is it open?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't get that, Kev.
She asked about the application process. She said she hasn't opened the application yet, but she just needs some clarity in terms of the process there.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we can drop, we can also drop the link into the chat as well. We've got Amira Lewis on the line as well. She deals with our applications. And you're more than welcome to also drop me an email and I can send it on. Once you click on that link, you can also go onto obviously our website and then just register. So that's quite straightforward, just your details and then usually a copy of your ID. Correct, Amira? Yes.
Yes, a copy of your ID and latest tertiary qualification is what you need to attach to your application.
Okay, thanks. Then I will take the other 2 questions. So I'll go back to the question around the certificate. I can hear, Vanilla, your concern is more about, so once I've completed this, what else can I do with this, and would I get credits towards that? At the moment, the program is added up to 10 credits in terms of the notional hours that the program is running, but the program doesn't lead to something that you can sort of, and I'm going to use the concept that you can get recognition of prior learning to as yet. We have other programs that we do RPL. For example, we have our MDP, Management Development Program, which is not focused on leadership per se, but it's a management program where leadership is just a part of that. But there we have recognition of prior learning at successful completion. You can get, I think, 22 credits towards a degree at the University of Free State. And or you can also get entry into the second year of study for a foundational degree with the University of Lincoln in the UK. In addition to that, we also have the same kind of articulation or recognition of prior learning with our SMDP as well as the EDP. So sadly, at this stage, no, there's no articulation as yet. So the certificate will be a certificate of competence in terms of the outcomes that we've set out for you to achieve. Then with regard to your
Kev,
question
can I
around,
just add in there?
okay,
Hi, Pamela. I just wanted to clarify, due to the shorter duration of this program, and also the fact that these are short course credits, and that is across South Africa. Okay, so Stellenbosch Business School Executive Development, we fall into the category of the short course higher education provider, and our credits are not academic credits. And due to the short duration of this program, there isn't the opportunity for RPL, as Kevin mentioned. So with our RPL programs, those are NQF 6, 7, and 8, but they are 6 months or 5 months and longer, if that helps. Okay, thank you.
thanks, Kerry. And then with regards to your question around faculty, so our faculty, I didn't talk about that. Remember when I mentioned earlier on around our colleagues at the business school and us at executive development. So our faculty is selected from people who are working in practice, but with a strong academic background as well. And so some of our faculty are heading up like institutions with ethics and leadership, etc. So we have Dr. Eric Albertini, Professor Arnold Smith, etc. that will be part of the faculty. And then we have an executive coach that will serve as the learning process facilitator to really help with sort of the integration of the modules, because leadership is like that. It doesn't work in compartments, but it works as an holistic picture as well. And then with regard to your question around the delivery modes, so this program is not an asynchronous program. It is a synchronous program. So even though we say it is a remote presented program, it means it is presented like we are talking right now. In other words, the class sessions are live, so you have to attend them, and there will be obviously pre-work to be completed, and there will also be sort of readings to be completed outside of the class time. But the actual class time, you have to attend, and that's not for time on your own, or as we would refer to it as asynchronous. The closed cohorts, we can, for example, have in-person or some in-person and some remote, but this open program is targeted to be a remote program. In other words, on the Zoom platform, like we are having a conversation now, that is how it should happen. Thanks. I trust that answers your question.
Thank you. I think maybe for the last part, I just wanted to get a sense if there were opportunities for interaction with my course mates. Like beyond logging in on Zoom together, will I get to know who they are?
Yeah.
Will I get to network? Is the group work? That kind of thing. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, Vanilla. You will have sufficient opportunity for that. And so one of the things that we often do is that the network starts here remotely, but it's nothing that would prevent you from even taking it. That's how relationships often are built, I said it this morning to another session that I was in. Sometimes I get invited or people get invited to a party, and then they say, they say, no, I'm not going to go because I don't know anyone there. And I often say to people, oh, by the way, all the people that you know now, there was a time that you didn't know them. So exactly, when you are in this space, you will not know people, like you say, and you're looking forward to that opportunity. And we do create opportunities in terms of the group work for people from different places to interact with one another in the discussion as well. Yeah. Thanks. Great. Ladies and gentlemen, so I just want to answer Diane's question. Diane, in terms of physical time, the 5 days of class time is probably going to be the most time that you're going to spend on the program where, and I think this is important, where you would have to be physically there, because leadership is one of those things that it's not only about going and reading up an article, but it's about that practice, and it's about that reflection and being guided through that within live situation. So that is a big commitment. If you are a busy professional, so it's going to require that you take time out from work to do that. But to that extent, I want to highlight Stephen Covey's Habit 7, which speaks about sharpening the saw, which I think is necessary in terms of enhancing our leadership effectiveness. However, after that, the time within that 3-month period that you need to, and that's why we highlight, that's the duration of the registration of the program. And so there will be a due date for your assignment, that leadership development plan that you need to submit. And that's the most time that you will spend on that. So there will be a due date, but you have to complete that assignment before that 3-month period is over. From the time that we've commenced the program until you have submitted your final presentation with your result. Okay. Then thank you, Rashan. Thanks, Diane. Good. Thanks, everyone. I think we've just about reached an hour since we've started. I think at this point in time, I want to say thank you very, very much for your insightful questions and for the investment in just being with us for this hour. On the screen, you can see again, if you need anything going forward, information, please contact Charmaine Mitchell, our client relations person, with the email address and the telephone number there. And for those of us who are HR and L&D professionals, and you're thinking of doing something within your organization, Claire Kelly is our channel director, and you can contact Claire on that email address and the number over there. We're really looking forward to receiving your application, also and welcoming you onto the program when we start the program. Thank you so much for your time, and have a wonderful rest of Thursday and going into the weekend as well. Thanks a lot.